Managing, monitoring and mitigating risk. Part A. Explain and assess the role of a risk manager. The risk manager is a role that supports the board by taking the lead on risk and developing policy and practice on managing risk. The risk manager role is also to support and work with the board of directors on its risk-related commitment. Risk managers need to have sound technical skills in managing various risks, such as compliance, legal and industry-specific risks, with good leadership and persuasive skills for performing their duties effectively. The risk manager key responsibilities are leadership of enterprise risk management, such as taking leadership in the process of risk management across the entire organization. Establishing and promoting enterprise risk management, endorsing the risk culture in the organization's day-to-day operations. Developing common risk management policies, like helping the board and the risk committee in formulating management policies. Establishing a common risk language and promoting simple risk language that everyone can understand, and defining the concepts clearly to avoid the confusion. Dealing with insurance companies, liaising with insurance partners regarding risk requirements of organization. Implementing risk indicators, designing and implementing processes which help in recognizing the risk issues early on. Allocation of resources based on risk. Reporting to the CEO, the board and the risk committee as appropriate, working in sync with management and the board of directors. Part B. Evaluate a risk register and use heat maps when identifying or monitoring risk. The risk register lists and prioritizes the main risks an organization faces and is used as the basis for decision making on how to deal with risks. The risk register helps the board with risk management by collecting information on risks and responses. The risk register contains the small details, such as who is responsible for dealing with which risk and actions taken by them in regards to risks, and risk levels before and after control action is taken for performing the cost-benefit analysis of the control. Risks can be included into the risk register once they are identified, categorized, and kept under review for more actions. Risks can also be separated into strategic risk and operational risk, so that they are considered and managed by the most appropriate level of management. Some organizations also keep separate registers for strategic risk and operational risk. Heat maps show risks in a visual way by plotting them on a chart based on their impact and likelihood. Heat maps are also known as risk maps. Heat maps can be drawn as a chart or graph using risks from a risk register, and each series of risks can be plotted on this map in order to decide on the best way to manage them. Usually risk maps have one axis for severity or impact and another axis for frequency or likelihood. Risk tolerance can be figured out from a heat map, which will reflect the risk appetite of the company. It will allow the company to prioritize the treatment of different risks. Part C. Describe and evaluate the concept of embedding risk in an organization's culture and values. Embedding risk in the organization means focusing on ensuring that the approach to managing the risk is considered at all times and in all roles by making it a part of the culture and values of the organization. Risks should always be embedded in the company's systems and procedure, and also in its culture and values, considering the importance of culture and values in the organization. To generate value for different stakeholders, it is very much necessary that the organization's strategy for risk management and operational activities should be aligned, but this is only possible if all levels of the organization embrace the risks faced by that organization. Part D. Explain and analyze the concepts of spreading and diversifying risk and when this would be appropriate. Diversification of risk implies offsetting the risks that are negatively correlated to balance their impact and likelihood regardless of the circumstances. It is also known as the portfolio approach. Imagine any organization which has identified a series of risks and identified them as being positively correlated risks. For example, manufacturing of clothes for summer and dry weather. In this situation, organizations can spread or diversify their business by having negatively correlated risks, like manufacturing clothes for cold and winter weather. This approach will balance out the risk for the organizations. Part E. Explain and assess the importance of risk transfer, avoidance, reduction, and acceptance. TARA. TARA is the model referred to when considering responses to risks. T stands for risk transfer, A for avoid, R for reduce, and A for accept. The following approaches are considered by the organization for the combinations of likelihood and impact while responding to the risk situation. Risk transfer, low likelihood but high impact. This means risk can be transferred to third parties wholly or in part. For example, insurance companies took risk from organizations for an amount called a premium. Risk avoidance, high likelihood and high impact, implies that the organization might choose to avoid the risk altogether by not investing in that business or pulling out completely from that business. Risk reduction, high likelihood and low impact, focusing on reducing the risk either by diversifying or re-engineering the business. Risk acceptance, low likelihood and low impact, accepting that risks might occur during a normal course of business and be prepared to face the consequences. Part F. Explain and assess the benefits of incurring or accepting some risk as part of competitively managing. By taking some risk in business, an organization can generate higher returns compared to other similar businesses. Not accepting any risk can also make a business less dynamic and less agile, and cannot innovate in order to get good returns. The organization will be a follower in the industry and not the leader. Accepting risk also implies that returns from different activities can generate higher benefits after taking on more risk, such as decreased costs, better quality of information considering the innovation and effect of new processes. High-risk activities can help organizations in creating competitive advantage, and organizations should invest in those activities to generate higher return. So, if a business does not take calculated risks, it will not be able to provide good returns to its investors, will be limited to activities which provide no competitive advantage, and will affect an organization's ability to grow and innovate. The point is, therefore, that if a business does not take some risks, it will normally be limited to activities providing little or no competitive advantage, which will limit its ability to grow and provide returns to its shareholders.